Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again, and this time I once again wish to talk about attachments but in a different context with a different perspective. And yes, I have talked about attachment in one of my previous videos wherein I had stated and wherein I had said how attachment is the essence of our life, even on the most superficial level. I would be talking about it today in a very different context. So, going back to how I had taken attachment at that point in time and understanding that perspective, and then coming to today's perspective, let us do a recap. So, even if we look at our own self, we'll understand that our hair across body is attached to this body and it does serve and perform a certain function. If you understand that this hand or our hands are attached to the body and the fingers that we have are attached to the hands and they enable us perform certain functions, all our internal organs are attached to one another and they are interconnected in certain ways wherein they are performing as a system, as a whole system. So there are different systems in the body. There is respiratory system, there is digestive system, there is reproductive system. There are tons of other systems in the body, but all of those systems are interconnected to form one complete unit which functions in this body. So all of these form attachments. They are attached in some way or the other, and that is one essence of attachment. Even if we take, for example, the water that is in this bottle that we drink, it is the water molecules, the hydrogen and the oxygen molecules that attach together, that form water molecules in different shapes, in different formats. But it is only when we drink water that we get hydrated. And if we do understand our body, 70% of this body and 70% or more of this planet Earth is formed of water bodies and is formed out of water molecules, we would understand that if hydrogen and oxygen had not attached in this particular way, there would be no water and probably there would be no us. So that is one aspect of attachment, and it is essential, it is required. And yet there is another attachment, there is another side to attachment, which is our attachment to our beliefs. And if we understand that we embody our beliefs, we embody our belief systems in us, which forms a part of our identity, the ego identity. And that is no different from us. And we all have that identity. Right from our name to our religion, to our education, to the kind of marks that we have gotten, to how we perform, to the kind of money that we make in this world, to the kind of car we have, to the way we look, to the way we talk, to the way we converse, is all ego identity. It is gradually built over us and we keep embodying it. So if there was a possibility of us to understand that if life is about evolution, we also need to upgrade, to evolve our belief systems. Because unless we do that, we'll keep repeating the similar cycles over and over and over again, expecting different results, expecting better results, but that never happens. So let us take some of our belief systems. Right from the basic one, the very basic one that I can say. If we take a glass that is half filled, we have been taught and trained to think that if somebody looks at the glass as half empty, the person has a pessimistic viewpoint of life. While as somebody who looks as glass being half full has an optimistic viewpoint of life. How about just taking a step back, a breather back, and giving it a different perspective. How about saying that the person who's able to look at half full and half empty has a better perspective of life, has a broader perspective of life? Because the person is able to see that even though the glass is half full, there is another capacity wherein it can absorb more. A container is only useful when it is empty, so that it can be used and utilized in a better way. And probably that is why they say keep your mind empty. So, if you understand that the half-filled glass, the half-empty portion of the glass, has also the capacity to take in more. And what we take in is obviously our choice after a certain stage in life, wherein we get to decide and wherein we get to choose, because most of our lives we are dependent on others to fulfill our basic requirements. And coming to that, when I said this, that the mind should be empty, we kind of invariably assume that the mind is here in the head. It is limited to the brain. It is just fixated inside the skull. Is it? Is it not even outside of us? In our belief systems, in the governance, in our governance, in the traditions we follow, in the traditions we don't follow, in the religions we follow, in the religions we don't follow, in certain aspects of our spiritual being, in certain aspects of our non-spiritual beings. So is our mind not spread over there as well? Is it just limited over here? And come to think of it, there are so many other belief systems. Like, most of the times we've been told, don't be greedy. But then yet we say, want more in life, because if you do not ever want more, the universe never knows what do you want, and it will not give you what you want. And invariably when we say don't be greedy, but we also want more success. How paradoxical is that? When we say that, we can teach and learn one way, which is generally top to bottom approach, we are also probably saying that our kids are not capable or intelligent enough to absorb and assimilate the kind of information, which again is very paradoxical. Because if we understand that it is the little ones who keep questioning a lot, it is the little ones up till the age of 5 and 6 who keep coming up with why, how, what, why. And they probably have 500 questions, 300 to 500 questions every single day. How is it that we assume then that kids would not be able to assimilate that information when that brain is curious enough, is inquisitive enough to question so many questions, is able to come up with so many questions? How can it not grasp that information? And when today science is telling us that it is in the first 3 and 5 years of the child's life that it is the neuroplasticity of the brain is at its best, when the neural connections are forming and expanding at the rate which they'll never expand later in life, most likely not. How is it that we assume that the kids would not understand? Maybe we are not willing to be so engaged. Maybe we don't have all the answers, and it is difficult for us to say that, for our egos to accept that maybe we don't have all the answers, and maybe whatever answer I'm giving you today may be applicable today, but it may not be applicable tomorrow, and maybe I may not have it perfectly right, but this is what I can offer you today. is something we probably can't say. And that is why most of us end up saying, because I said so, because this is how it's always been done. But why? And then we go blind, and then we go dumb and numb. And then we say, oh, don't question so much. That is how it's always been done, and we know better than you. I have done that, and I think most grown-ups have done that. Also, let's try and understand that does learning or any kind of an exchange only work unilaterally? Does learning happen unilaterally? Can the exchange of emotions be only unilateral? I don't think so. I really don't think that any kind of an information or an exchange is unilateral. So when we say that our kids don't listen to us, somewhere we are also saying that we don't listen to our kids as well. Somewhere when we say that kids are not attentive, maybe we are not as attentive ourselves. When we say that kids are not engaged, maybe we ourselves are not engaged equally. When we say that kids are distracted, maybe we are equally distracted. So let's try and understand that even when we want our kids to respect us at whatever age, we need to earn that respect. And don't they say that trust and respect is earned? So if we can understand that the way we earn money is also the way we earn trust and respect. And if money can be earned and lost, so can trust be, and so can respect be, but it also can be re-earned. We just need to show up over and over and over again. And if it means changing our belief systems, if it means editing our belief systems and our identity with our belief systems, so be it. But maybe that is the only way, because unless we give respect, we can't gain respect. Unless we learn to listen, we really cannot expect somebody else to listen to us. And unless we listen to our own selves, we really can't expect somebody else to listen to us. And maybe we want more obedience, which we invariably end up calling as respect. And there's a difference between obedience, wherein we want somebody to adhere to our beliefs, to our way of thinking, primarily being us in a miniature or in a different format. And if that was to be the case, why have we created so many billions? If everyone had to be a miniature me or my version of me, then why are there so many billions of us? One would have sufficed at a time. So let's even try to understand that maybe there is beauty in disobedience as well. Because if people were not disobedient to a certain degree, new things would not have ever been created. New things would not have ever come into the picture. We would not have had a Buddha. We would not have had an Albert Einstein. We would not have had an Osho. We would not have had a Rani Lakshmi Bai. We would not have had an Indira Gandhi as some of the great leaders in some ways. And yes, we all can decide for ourselves. What about them is it that we like? That we can, embrace for ourselves? We can choose the entire personality, and we can choose certain aspects of that personality which we truly admire and truly like. so that we recreate a better versions of ourselves. So let's even take the institution of marriage. We are kind of trained into thinking that we are not whole people. And that is why this insane desire for perfection. And that is why this insane desire to control things. Because we want to fix it. And that is why a lot of people today have the struggle with their own grown-ups, wherein the grown-ups tell them to get married or to look for a partner, and the young ones do say, is it really necessary? Why should we do it? And yes, there is no harm in getting married, but our institution for so long has told us that it is primarily two half people who come together to make a whole. The institution doesn't say that this is one whole person and this is another whole person. In progress, still in progress, in evolution, in the process of growth, will constantly change and transform, but as of today, these are two whole people who come together to make a bigger, better whole. They don't complete each other, but they complement each other. But our system tells us otherwise. And so is with a lot of other things. If you think of it, we are the only species that is on a constant diet program all our lives. There is no other species on this planet that has a diet program. Why are we constantly on this diet and that diet or that diet or that diet? And this diet is better than that diet? Maybe because we are quite mindless about the way we have eaten and the way we have lived. So, I think it's time that we start questioning our belief systems. Maybe we start understanding that there are certain things that may have helped us in the past. Say, for example, early child marriage at some point in time in our history may have helped us. But does it solve the same purpose today? Does it truly help us today? Yes, wanting a boy, craving for a boy child, a male child in the family, at one point in time may had been a necessity. Is it really required today? Because at a certain point in time in our history, the inheritance supported, the law of inheritance supported the male child. The property, all of the assets went to the male child. The girl was treated as the liability, wherein parents had to provide dowry for their daughter, and it is still prevalent today. And yes, we need to understand that there was a different concept of dowry which got twisted and contorted. The original purpose of dowry was very different. But is it really needed today? Then why are so many of us aspiring for that male child, when now the law of inheritance says that a female child is equally entitled to the property, has a rights in the property, has a say in the matter? There was a point in time when opinionated girls were not given due reverence. Today also, in a lot of countries, they aren't given due reverence and due respect. In fact, opinionated girls and women are probably called off as being real tough or unadjustable and difficult to live with. And then our society also tells us that we should be clear about what we want and what we do not want. How paradoxical, how contradictory is that? We are told never to fail, but then we are also told that there is nothing called as failure, it's just a stepping stone to success. We are told not to step out of the line, to be in line, to fit in the line, and yet we aspire, or our aspirations are towards being number one. We are told not to be the odd one out, and yet we aspire to be number one. Isn't number one the odd number out? How paradoxical and how contradictory are our belief systems. And most of the times, since we have been trained and taught into thinking in very lateral and literal ways, we end up living our lives in very lateral and literal ways. Like the example of the half-filled glass that I gave you. Like the example of teaching being only in a linear fashion, top to bottom. I think it's time that we start questioning and understanding our own belief systems that we embody, that embodies us. Because unless we do that, we'll forever be having a battle within and battle outside. We'll forever be saying that change is the only route and the normal norm of life, but then yet end up as man being the creature of habits, and it is difficult to rewire our habits. And we'll keep functioning and bringing up the same old stuff, trying to get different results, and probably taking longer, much longer than expected, creating a lot of collateral damage in the process while trying to bring about those changes. So why not tap into our belief systems that we embody us, that form a part of our identity, and edit it every few years? The way we edit our budget systems, the way we edit our policies, the way we edit our governance. Why not edit our belief systems so that we keep upgrading them, so that we keep breathing life into them? Because we are an embodiment of that, and we are embodying our lives as well. And if life is a process of constant evolution, we cannot have a belief system that lags behind. It needs to evolve with life. So let's try and remove our attachments from our belief systems. That also means that we constantly have to rewrite our identities. We have to constantly change and reinvent our own selves. Which also means that there will be a point in time wherein our identity will be distorted, wherein we probably will not be able to say who we are, and yet we'll be able to say work in progress all the time. So let's try and do that. Let's try and reinvent ourselves with our belief systems. Let's keep upgrading our own selves every few years so that we enable others to do that for themselves, so that we start getting out of our own fixated norms, of our own fixations, and creating and recreating a better version, a more wholesome versions of ourselves. Let's try and do that, and I will see you once again next week. Till then, stay tuned in.